everybody, and welcome to the weekly wrap for July 10th, 2020. My name's Maryann Simson with Apex Media.
And I'm Seth Miller from FACC
All right, Seth, this week we've got a bit of a smorgasbord of connectivity news, don't we?
Yeah, it's exciting. There's actually some good news coming out from the industry. We had Gogo announce that they're changing their air-to-ground network to activate at 3,000 feet now instead of 10,000 feet. And they say for a number of flights that should add 15 to 20 minutes of connectivity time. This applies to both business aviation and commercial jets. And given the number, especially on their commercial regional jet fleet of sort of short hops, 60 minutes or less flights, this actually really opens up a lot more connectivity time for those passengers. We also had some big news out of China where Qingdao Airlines announced that its Ka-band in-flight connectivity solution is finally online. And this was announced actually at Apex Expo back in 2018 as a project and a deal. And FTS is the integrator. Gilat is providing the modem connectivity equipment. It's a big deal, especially because just getting anything online in China, especially the domestic market there, is huge. It's very difficult to do, and seeing any accomplishment and any progress there is makes my heart full.
Oh, that's so sweet. Hey, I've got a couple questions, Seth, because you're sort of our IFE expert here. With regard to the Gogo announcement, from a technology perspective, why is that significant? I assume there's like a good reason why they don't start it until 10,000 feet. So like, have they had to do anything to enable the 3,000 foot thing?
Surprisingly, there's actually not a good reason. So, oopsie. No, the 10,000 feet thing is because of when they originally started the service, the FAA basically said, use the same rules they used for electronic devices on airplanes, which was above 10,000 feet, so you're not in sort of the critical phases of flight, the taxi, takeoff, landing stuff. And then it turned out that they slowly rolled that back, and you could use electronic devices and satellite Wi-Fi gate to gate. But the 10,000 foot rule never really changed. And so Gogo does have they said a couple sort of dark spots on their network because of the way the antennas are angled, where below, between the 3,000 and 10,000 foot range, you're not going to necessarily have great service just because the antennas are pointed up too high and the signal doesn't reach the aircraft as well. So if they really wanted to fill those gaps, there would be some additional work required, but there's not a real good reason why it was always 10,000 feet. It's just sort of that's where it started.
All right, cool. And then just with regard to the Ka-band announcement with Qingdao Airlines, do you think is there a reason why Ka-band would be the choice for that airline? Does it have anything to do with the region or the type of aircraft they're operating, or do you think that's just sort of the go-to spectrum that people are kind of after right now?
I think it really comes down to satellite capacity. And, ChinaSat has a couple different satellites with coverage over the country, but the satellite in question, ChinaSat 16, offers, I think, 20 gigabits of total capacity through its spot beams. And it's just, there's a lot more capacity there that's available for services, including this new in-flight connectivity solution. I should also point out that there was supposed to be another Ka-band satellite launched in late 2019, and there was a failure on that satellite. So getting more Ka-band capacity over China is going to take a little bit of time yet, but I think it's more about just that there was additional capacity available because this satellite hadn't been fully allocated yet. A couple other quick headlines I wanted to share. Viasat announced that its business aviation customers on its Ka-band network no longer have speed caps. And it used to be limited to 16 megabits per aircraft, and now it's unlimited. They've reported speeds up above 40 megabits per second. Not a ton of aircraft equipped with the system, and probably not a massive difference to the impact on passengers most of the time. But it's interesting to hear them saying that the idea is stop having people even worry about running speed tests just because everything finally just works. So that's an interesting approach to the market. I'm sure people are still going to run the speed tests, but it's a neat. I don't know. It's an interesting shift in the marketing positioning, I think.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't fly business aviation ever, but I imagine those guys are happy. And some OneWeb news. It's back from the dead.
Yeah, they might still be in business, which is exciting. The British government and the company behind Airtel, which is an Indian cell phone and communications network, each stumped up about $500 million and are going to own the company out of bankruptcy, essentially. And so they're hoping to continue the manufacturing, continuing the satellite launches, and actually bring the network into production. Good news if it happens. Obviously, sort of knowing that the company behind it is tied to communications. They're actually one of the founding members of the Seamless Air Alliance, so they understand what it's like, the challenges of bringing connectivity to the aviation world. There's a lot of optimism, I would say right now, cautious optimism, but optimism about maybe getting this network online in production and a few years from now possibly onto airplanes.
Yeah, exactly. We did reach out to OneWeb to see if there was any sort of information on whether or not they might be targeting the commercial aviation industry again or not. And they basically just sort of redirected us to the press release at this time. They said they don't have any further information, but we'll definitely be monitoring that to see if they, come back on the scene targeting the aero market.
Yeah, absolutely going to be interesting to watch that one.
All right, moving along. Our special guest today is Christian from FACC, which is an aircraft interiors company based in Austria. And this week they made some news with a product that they've developed called Lav for All, which is an accessible lavatory designed for the A320 family of aircraft. And this is significant because there is some regulation pending to make lavatories more accessible on all aircraft type.
Yeah, the single-aisle aircrafts have historically not been required to offer accessible lavatories. And as those planes fly longer and longer segments and pick up more and more of the traffic, regulators are, believe it or not, actually trying to change that a little bit. They're getting some pushback from the airlines, not surprisingly, mostly related to costs, but also the airlines are saying, there are no products out there that we can use that meet these requirements you're asking of us. So, we can't really do it yet. And it's nice to see that there are some vendors stepping forward with options that might help fill that gap and sort of force the airline's hand and make flying more accessible.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's hear from Christian now from FACC. Hi, Christian. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello. Thanks for having me here.
Christian, last December, the DOT moved to add some new regulations around how aircraft lab accessibility is managed. What are you hearing from your airlines about those changes and the challenges they're facing?
For passengers with reduced mobility, the usage of a lavatory during a flight is very limited or even impossible. We wanted to offer our airline customers a competitive advantage and a solution even before aviation regulations will apply.
All right, Christian, you claim this lavatory is 100% barrier-free, which is a big claim. And I was just wondering if you could share some of the features that it has that makes you confident in saying that it's barrier-free.
So we enlarged the entry area by completely changing the shape of the door from a flat door to a door with a right angle shape. We enlarged the space inside, hence a wheelchair user can use the lavatory for all even without any assistance. When you open the door, one part of the door is closing the aisle at the same time, so you will not need any curtains to cover. This will increase the feeling of privacy and dignity.
Awesome. What's the roadmap look like for this product? Where are you going to see availability to start, and how's it going to progress from there?
At the first step, we identified the space of the lavatory in an A320 aircraft family as the smallest space and made that to a benchmark. So we developed the lavatory for all to fit in that external dimensions. As a second step, we will adapt the lavatory for all to other single aircraft types like Boeing 737, and as a third step to any aircraft type in the wide-body market. For us, it is important that the airlines have a solution without reducing the maximum number of passengers.
All right, thank you so much to Christian from FACC for joining us today. I'm really excited about this development, and I'm sure there are a lot of passengers with reduced mobility who are equally as excited. It looks like a spacious concept even for able-bodied passengers, and I think it's great that they're starting with the A320 family because that is a very tight sort of rear lavatory. So once they nail that, and they have done without removing any seats, without taking any galley space away, then after that I think fitting it to other aircraft types should be a breeze.
Yeah, I think so. And Also would like to point out, that they worked with a whole lot of people with reduced mobility in developing the product. And so this isn't just, a few people sitting in a lab coming up with an idea. They really did bring in a lot of outside insight to the concept. And I think that's going to help drive some of the adoption. There's a lot of challenges these days with flying and learning and understanding what the rules are from different airlines, from different airports, what's going to be required of you when you get ready to go. And it's interesting to me to see we've actually discovered some cooperation between the three major alliances, Star Alliance, OneWorld, and SkyTeam, in trying to help sort of inform passengers and travelers of what that experience is going to be like. They put out a little video this week.
Yeah, the video is called Dear Travelers, and it's linked to a hashtag Fly with Confidence. It's a 1-minute video, great production. It's really cute, and I do think it's comforting. The tone of it is comforting. It's a little bit vague, but I think that's coming from us who want all the juicy details. I think for the average passenger, that this video sort of talks about the journey and how the airlines are all basically adhering to sets of guidelines, and that helps passengers understand that this is consistent, that this is something they can expect across I think more than 50% of the world's air network is basically covered by these three alliances, so it will be fairly consistent.
Dear travelers, to keep you safe, airlines have made some changes to flying. If possible, check in online and use the self-serve baggage drop at the airport. For the sake of your fellow passengers, please wear a face mask and respect social distancing. Health checks may become part of your journey. We're ensuring thorough deep cleaning and disinfection of all areas, from the lounges to the washrooms and especially the plane itself. So while we know travel has changed, your journeys are still out there.
Yeah, and also worth pointing out that for those who do want the juicy details, at least Star Alliance and OneWorld have produced sort of microsites on their web pages that include opportunity to sort of click and choose, I'm flying this airline from this airport, or connecting here and there kind of stuff. What am I going to be faced with? Are there, what are the cleaning regimens? What are the different things that are happening? So there is that level of juicy detail also available, not in a single site. You got to go to the specific alliance, so it's not 100% cooperation there, but it is nice to see that information available.
Yeah, they've both done it in a similar way. You search your flight and your aircraft in a similar fashion. So I would say the way that you search is quite the same. Yeah.
Yeah. This next one, Maryann, I feel like we have to fight over who gets to say the coolest thing about it. And the story is that there's a new electrostatic spray machine that's being migrated onto a galley cart for helping to clean aircraft interiors. And you and I read this story independently, and when we were planning for this episode, both, exclaimed that we thought that, the same thing was really cool.
Okay, I feel like you've set me up to say it there. So the company that they're working with, On Target Spray Systems, actually sort of got their start, and their main business is spraying crops with electromagnetic pesticides, I can only assume. And so now they're moving into the disinfection business with this little cart. And then I think the second coolest thing that I only learned today, I think you knew already, is how electrostatic sprays even work.
Yeah, it's really neat. They basically, as the pressurized liquid comes out of the nozzle, they ionize it. They put an electric charge on it. And so instead of just flying straight and going, that charge sort of detects that there's something nearby and can help it sort of curve around and pick up or attach to whatever else is nearby. So they have some cool videos showing how it can do a horseshoe, essentially coming off the nozzle and go attack where it needs to be.
Amazing. Science. So this is being distributed, this new product is being distributed by a subsidiary of KLM, which is significant as well, because I think it is interesting to see a subsidiary of one airline that clearly is providing a service for so many.
Yeah, it's, the Air France KLM runs its own MRO operation, sort of similar to Lufthansa Technik, and this is from a subsidiary of theirs. And in many ways, it's a little bit like how we spoke a couple weeks ago about Germfalcon now being distributed by Honeywell. Same sort of idea of getting a supplier that has a little better reach into the aviation industry to finally get the product out there. So it should help make sure that airlines that want it can access this and know that it's going to be available and work right.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for the show today. So I'm going to say thank you, Seth, for your expertise, in particular on the IFE stuff.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Maryann.
Thanks so much, Seth. And thank you, everybody, for watching. If you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the channel, follow Apex and Seth on social media, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.